When did you decide that a business could also be a force for good?
That's just part of my origin story and the reason that I started Bella Tunno to begin with.
Michelle, welcome to Empathy Led. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm really happy to get to talk with you.
I've been wanting to have you on the show from the very, very first season. And like we say, all good things are worth waiting. So I'm happy we are here.
Likewise, likewise. And I appreciate the tenacity with it because I've been really excited to be a guest.
So anyone who meets you, anyone who knows you, anyone who even has a conversation with you for 5 minutes, really get this sense of a woman on a mission that is fueled by a series of beliefs and values that informs the way she walks this walk and her contribution to the world. What I'm interested in understanding is, like, what are the pieces of your early life puzzle that we need to have in order to understand this woman on a mission?
Well, I love that question. I have actually been doing a lot of work in that area lately to reach kind of a higher level of consciousness about what that is. And for me, this idea of truly measuring success in the world based on impact, I think was embedded pretty early. I grew up in a home where my parents were always looking to help people. They did respite care for foster kids, so we would have Emily and Frankie come on weekends. We'd have Sheila and Brenda come on weekends. And I think it wasn't just that we brought those kids in and they were part of our family, but it was that they would come with lice almost every time. And instead of being like, gosh, they can't come anymore because lice is a beast. I mean, I know your daughter's young, but if she ever comes home with lice, it's a beast. And to watch my parents, and this is kind of retrospective, I knew there was so much love there at the time, but to watch them be like, well, I guess we're gonna figure out how to get rid of the lice outside of the house because we brought it in 3 times and that's a lot of work. But it never was, well, we're gonna have to stop bringing them home. And it was a cycle with them where they would always show up for people. I think a lot of their love for people came from a deep religious foundation. I'm not sure that that's where mine stems from. We're a little bit different in that way, but they just kept showing up for people, whether it was the newly widowed woman who a tree fell in her yard and my dad would be on that cleanup crew, or whether it was making meals for people who were in the hospital. They modeled that idea of it's a privilege to have the opportunity to help someone. It's not a sacrifice, it's a gift. And so I think like all patterns that we see in our childhood, you either decide, I want to repeat that, or I want to rebel against it, or I want to revise it so that it fits into my world. And I think that specific pattern, I knew I wanted to repeat it, but I also wanted to revise it. But I think that's the foundation for my drive for wanting to impact the world and just leave it better than I found it.
So in what ways have you revised it then?
So my parents very much were, have you heard the whole kind of starfish analogy? It's so cliche, but it's like you're walking along a beach and there's one starfish out of the water and, well, actually there's probably a lot out of the water and you can't save them all, but you pick up the one and you throw it back and you still see a whole beach full of starfish that might not make it because they're on a dry beach now. And you think, gosh, how could I ever do it all? But the whole point was it mattered to the one you saved, right? That was my parents' mentality. They're gonna help Frankie, or they're gonna help Emily, or they're gonna help this one child or this one woman. I think I watched where the story didn't end well for Frankie or Emily or Brenda or Sheila. And so I have revised that to say my idea of philanthropic giving is much more institutional. It's much more high level. So I'm not bringing one person into my house to see how I can help them. I'm trying to figure out where the dam is erupting from and plugging the hole, you know, as opposed to catching a little bit in a bucket Does that make sense?
Absolutely. How can we change the system, right? Well, because the Brendas and some of the challenges that we see are really just symptoms, right? The manifestations are something deeper, something at the systemic level. And rather than, going for the symptoms, you decided that, well, if we could fix things at a systemic level, maybe downstream we will have less and less and less of this pattern and these issues repeated.
Exactly. And it's not my gifting to one-on-one do that. I think you start to learn where you can show up strong, and that's not it for me. So it's more kind of that really creative approach, maybe an entrepreneurial approach towards more institutionalized change.
So you mentioned earlier when I asked that first question that you've been doing a lot of introspective work that allows you to understand where this love for helping others and changing and challenging systems come from. You just mentioned that, that one-on-one philanthropic is not a gift of yours. Like, what have you uncovered a strength of yours that, knowingly or unknowingly you have leaned on over these years to build and to show up in the way that you've showed up?
So I think one of the biggest things I've realized is bringing a level of problem solving that sometimes doesn't exist in philanthropic organizations is one of my core value adds. I've never been someone who wants to repeat a system just because that's the way it's been done, whether that's through Bella Tunno, whether that's my approach towards parenting. It's also, I love to try to figure out why things are happening the way they are, how could they be better, what's causing them to maybe not hit their highest level of performance in anything, and then how can we fix it? And so sometimes the approach taken, whether it's a lack of budget or there are many reasons, but sometimes in an organization that is philanthropically focused and striving to help people, there is a little bit of resistance to change. We're going to do it this way because it's worked in the past and this is our success rate. And I think I am a disruptor in that kind of thing. So for instance, when I went down to, I worked with a sex trafficking rescue organization in the Dominican Republic, and I made a spreadsheet of everything I heard that were needs that they weren't saying were needs. But in conversations, I was like, well, I didn't hear you say this, but you said it. And I made this entire spreadsheet, and then I helped them prioritize the spreadsheet, and then we identified a level of impact that each one of those needs would cause, and then we started chipping away at it. And like, who can I connect you to? Who can I believe in that power of connection so much, because I might know somebody that you might never have the chance to meet, and you might know someone that I might never have the chance to meet. But if I know what you're trying to do, I can open up my network. And that's what we've done. I mean, some of the biggest needs that they had, we've already filled, and I didn't do it. I just made an introduction, but what I was able to do was kind of peel it back and be like, I'm hearing you say this, but what it sounds like you might need is this. And it's kind of that chipping away and identifying root causes and really trying to solve the deepest problem I can identify.
And I think it's that, for me, says a lot about you. I think a lot of time we come in those spaces with the answers or thinking that we have the answers. But in order for you to make the spreadsheet, it requires deep, active listening, right? It requires for you to allow and to create space for the people to tell you what they need. And I think at times we don't do enough of that. And I think there is a level of empathy that comes with active listening, a level of respect for the person in front of you, your ability to suspend your judgment, right? The chatter in your mind when somebody's trying to tell you something and I have the answer to this, right? And so for me, that's what I heard when you were giving that specific example about the sex trafficking and the way you handled that situation. I just heard active listening, a sense of,
Yeah, I agree. And, I learned that the hard way, because the first time I went to Africa, I I'm embarrassed to say this, but I just went with such a Western mentality. And I brought my computer and my spreadsheet and all these ideas for efficiency, because I was working with an organization called BraveWorks that they were doing artisan development of products. And I was like, I know products. I can help you find efficiencies. So I go with all of these ideas because I think I know how to do it. And I'm at a place where there's no running water. The sewing machines are broken. Women have not seen their husbands or the fathers of their children for months, and they're raising 6 children on their own. And everything that I thought I was gonna bring was not at all where they were. Yeah. And I couldn't plug any of it in. And I honestly left that trip 2 weeks of just being like, I did nothing. I literally added no value. And then I made a choice. I was like, I can either ask for a redo on that, and I can listen to everything I heard there, and I can try to meet them where they are next time, and I know I can do better, or I can put my tail between my legs and be like, this isn't for me. Apparently, I don't know how to do this type of work. And I went back for the redo, and it grabbed my whole heart. But the level of, I just went in like a bulldozer, and I took everything I thought I knew and all this. I don't know. I'm embarrassed of how I did it, but you have to learn from it, right?
You do.
And I will say that the work that we're doing there now is so powerful, because it's the work they need to get to the next step. And I was trying to go from point A to point Z, and that's not possible.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, all credit to you. You learn. Some people never do learn, right? They go in and there's no humility. There is really no empathy, and unfortunately, so much of it is ego-driven. And right, so. When did you decide? Because there is this whole philanthropic work, working with nonprofit, helping to make them better, helping to scale the impact. But when did you decide that work didn't have to stop in the nonprofit world? That a business could also be a force for good?
That's just part of my origin story and the reason that I started Bella Tunno to begin with. It's interesting because it goes back to those patterns of repeating it, what you see with your parents rebelling against it. And I went through a phase where I rebelled a lot against what I saw with my parents. And I actually, when I graduated college, I did not have the mentality that I've shared at all with you. This is a complete 180, actually. And I wanted to fly first class, and I wanted to see the world, and I wanted to have an expense account, and I wanted a big title and a big team. And the things that I thought were so important came from growing up in this really small town and never even hearing the word entrepreneur. And my dad was a government worker, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom until she became a substitute teacher, and then started working after we were in middle school. And, their little 2 to 3 point cost of living adjustment, and they were happy and they were secure and there was very little risk. I wanted the exact opposite. So here I am climbing the corporate ladder, literally 3 rungs at a time, just running to the top. And I was in a role where I was the manager of brand strategy. I was heading the department at a firm uptown. I was 27 years old. I was flying to Switzerland, France. I was all over the place, and I'm giving presentations to like 40 men in suits. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I love the rush of like being in charge, and having an active kind of environment. At that same time, I had grown up with one sibling, and his name was Matt, and he was absolutely my soft landing place in this world. I mean, my best friend. We just, the way we grew up was, I think, very different. And just like any sibling, you're the only 2 that have that, right? And so Matt and I were just ridiculously close, and always had been. And while I'm chasing that corporate dream, Matt had gotten himself into some really deep, addictive behaviors. And that started when we were young, but I think in high school, it was just everyone kind of is curious, and some people just test the waters a little more, but he had actually gotten to the point where he was really in deep and heavy drugs and gone to a few rehab centers. At the same time, he was working on his doctorate. It was fully funded. He had 2 masters. He wasn't kind of that typical stereotypical drug addict. Long story, but I'm just thinking I've made it. I am the definition of success from small town, right? I am flying first class. I do have an expense account. I do have a department at a big building in Uptown Charlotte. My brother overdosed. And he had overdosed before, but this one was the final overdose, and he passed away. And at that time, he was 30 and I was 27, and it was this moment where it was like, what am I chasing? Like, who am I really? And all of a sudden, that rush of giving a presentation, I didn't even know what I was talking about, but having people lean in and listen to me on it, I was like, that's pointless. And all of the things that I was accumulating just felt empty. You know, there was nothing purposeful in what I was doing. So truth is, I went into a really sizable depression, as did my parents, and especially my mom. And I took a leave of work, and they kept trying to wait for me to come back. And for 9 months, they paid me. And finally, I said, I'm not coming back. It's not in me anymore. Something's changed. I don't know what it is. Something's changed. All I knew at that point was I want to help people overcome the situation that my brother Matt couldn't. I want to give people a chance to do that. And I want to do it in his name, because he wasn't just a drug addict. And that stigma that follows people that pass away or even just battle that, sometimes it's just not fair. And so I want to be the voice for him. I want to be the voice for people that don't have the opportunity to get help. That was actually the only part of a business plan that I had for Bella Tunno, that and being pregnant. And so I thought, I am bringing a new baby into this world that terrifies me. And the flip side of that was I'm shopping for this new baby, and there's nothing out there that I like. And I thought maybe creating products that apparently have a pretty big white space in the market could be the vehicle to create a fund to put people through rehab, to give scholarships to vulnerable communities. And that was really the catalyst for starting Bella Tunno. So it was never about launching a product development brand. It was always about raising money to do good work and to help people. And it's evolved a lot since then in terms of what we focus on, and now we're all about eliminating childhood hunger, and there's a bridge back to drug and alcohol addiction through that, which is one of the reasons that is so important to us. But it's the kind of thing that when you build in a real reason behind what you do, and especially when you donate from the very beginning and you build it into your model, it's part of your profits, it's just part of what you do, it's just so easy to do good and to watch it grow. And I've said a bunch of times in different rooms that had I started writing the checks we write now 5 years ago, it would have felt like it would have been hard. Yeah. Like my hand would have been wiggling. But now writing that check just feels like success because it's a 1-for-1 model now. So we only get to give meals when we sell products, and it's always been so tightly aligned that that's just what we do. And so when new entrepreneurs come to me and they're like, when should I start giving? When should I find my purpose? I'm like, now. Before you start the business, like weave it into the fiber of who you are and let it be what your heart beats for. Because especially on those days when business gets so hard, if it was just about a silicone bib, I wouldn't be doing it anymore. It's not about that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's this idea that...
There's so much in there. Where I wanted to start was, thank you for entrusting me with your story, yours and your brother's story. I'm sure it's not the first time you've shared that story, but you always have the choice to whether or not share it, especially in this kind of setting. So thank you. Yeah. And then the multiple follow-up to that, to all the things you just said, one of our core beliefs at our agency, Griot, is that the purpose of a business is to enhance the human experience in big and small ways. It doesn't have to be stopping hunger, right? But I think when you create a product that has utility for somebody's life, you are making their life better in some tiny, tiny way. So when we talk about empathy-led marketing or empathy-led business, is really this recognition of like what you just said, that unless you are able to bring to market a product that someone or a large enough group of people want, then there is no revenue, there is no profit. Therefore, like the purpose of your business cannot be the profit, because the profit is an outcome. It's an outcome of having done something for somebody else, right? And it just happens that to you all and the business that you've created, that just makes sense. But I think that is true for every business, or at least it should be true for every business, that if I just continue to create value for this group of people, the way I measure my impact and my success is through the revenue that I'm getting, because that means that there is a group of people out there that find what I create useful, right? And therefore, the focus shouldn't be on chasing the revenue and the profit, because it's a byproduct of having done successfully what you are here to do. But like, this is something that I know and you know is not common, right? But it just seems so intuitive to you. It just seems. And then the last piece was something that I've called myself on a while back, which is, you talked about the checks that you are writing now. Yeah. A while back I used to be, when I'm rich, I'm gonna give generously, I'm gonna tip generously. And then I just realized that, like, if you cannot give 1% of $1 now, there is no way you're gonna give 1% of $1 million. Let's be real, right? Because giving and saving are first and foremost habits. They're first and foremost, just a belief and a value that you have. And the size of it really just changes as your life improves and changes. But the belief and the habits happens first.
100%. And the excitement about giving, it's contagious. It really is. I mean, it's one of our favorite things. Now, I don't want a ton of emails about like donate here and donate here. It's not that. It's because it's what we have carved out as something we want to impact in the world. So that said, we are very focused in on the impact we want to leave and what we want to do. And that's something that I think is really important too, because I would rather give deeply to a couple things than give broadly to everything. Yeah. Again, personal choice. There's no right or wrong with that. Yeah. But that's where I feel like, when we first started our buy one, feed one with Bella Tunno, we're like, if we can give 1 million meals, can you imagine giving 1 million meals? Well, now we're up to 12.1 million meals. And so that's how we measure success. Yeah. That's our kickoff every quarter. How many meals did we give? We go into our key accounts and our buyers are like, how many meals did we give? I mean, it's contagious. Yeah. But if we were writing a check, here 1 week and here 1 week and here, we could be giving the same amount, but the impact would not be the same. Yeah. And so I think that's a really critical thing too.
So when did you decide? I mean, you've had all this set of beliefs and values and this model baked into the business from the beginning. Yes. When and why did you decide that the B-CORP step was necessary?
I love that you asked that. We 100% have existed for good since day one. But a lot of brands say that. And I hope that it's true for most of them. B-Corp is a way that they peel back every layer. We have to send every single donation and every single one so that they can check, okay, it is that many meals. And we have to send our certifications for every company, every manufacturer we work with, because they're all certified to be fair to their employees, fair hours, clean conditions, all of these types of audits that they go through, we have to show that we do that. We can't just say anything. We're legally bound to prove it. And it only lasts for 3 years. So we just got recertified in 2023. The reason we did it was because we wanted to show that we are exactly who we say we are. There's not one thing that we're doing that we're embellishing. There's not one thing that we're saying we do that we're not actually doing, and that's really what B Corp is. It's almost like you hear about, certified organic foods. That's what B Corp is for business. It's like certified good, and it's become something that we are just really proud of because it's not easy, and it's not just about what we give. It's not just about the mission and the purpose. It's everything we do. It's how we treat our employees. It's the fact that we're a very small company and we give everyone health care and we give everyone parental leave. And it's bigger than just that, you know? You ask for a drink of water, we're gonna give you a cup that's made of recycled materials that's also biodegradable. Like, we are going to do our best for the world in all kinds of different ways. And that's what B Corp is. It's saying that we are actually walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
I mean, the real power of a brand is coherence, right? It's how coherent every single piece, everything they say, everything they do, every choice, every decision, every strategic move is just built to reinforce and support this set of ideas and beliefs and values in just like a coherent way. And I think when we work with clients at Griot, we always try to dissuade them to think about competitive advantage as this single thing that they do, but as this, like, the multiplicity of the things that you do is really what create the moat, right? Because this is one thing, even if it's a legal thing, like a patent, like, it doesn't give you the kind of protection that, like, every decision that you make is just reinforcing this thing in a way that, like, somebody might copy the buy one, get one thing that you guys do. Somebody might copy they will have to become a completely different business in order for them to copy Bella Tunno. So the ultimate competitive advantage is being clear about who you are as a brand and as a company, and to create that kind of coherence with everything that you do and everything that you say, because, well, competitors will have to change who they are. And I have a sneaky suspicion. Actually, it's not a suspicion. I know, because I've worked with companies like yours before, that you guys don't even think about competitors. Like, how you guys think about competition in the market?
I mean, I love competition. I love it. I think there is a place for everyone. I'm very much of the mindset that if I do better, that doesn't mean you have to do worse, and vice versa. I look at that, I'm getting off topic here, but the female community, let's make seats for other women at the table. Let's lift them up. Let's, like, scoot over and say, there's room for another chair. I see it that way with competition too, and especially in the B Corp world. Please join us. Yeah. You know, I don't worry about competition. That has never kept me up at night. Yeah. I love it. It makes us better. It makes us stronger. We don't own patents. We own a ton of trademarks, but we have never successfully gotten a patent. We just got to stay clever, and we got to figure out, what does the parent need? What's going to help the baby? How can we partner with experts to get it done? How can we collaborate better? There is no lack of opportunity. And every single new opportunity means we can give more, do more, donate more meals. I welcome competition. It's never kept me up at night.
I already know that was going to be your answer.
Yeah.
We coined this phrase at the agency. We call it competitive allyship. Yes. And it's just this idea. It's just this idea. I usually take the idea of team sports, that before you have 11 players on a soccer field starting a soccer game, playing against another team, competition had started long before that, right? Like, those players have to compete to be in the starting 11. Yeah. But competition in a healthy team isn't a cutthroat, I want to see you fail type thing, right? It's something that, like, I'm going to compete because I want to be on starting 11, but it's competing in the spirit of making everyone better. It's competing in the spirit of moving the whole bringing it back to business, the whole industry forward, the whole category forward, right? With all of that, and you said it too, what does the mom need, what does the kid need? All of that on behalf of the people that we seek to serve, right? Yeah. So I'm interested in your business for multiple reasons, but one of the things that interests me on your business is that you have a customer, the parent, and you have a consumer, the baby, right? How do you treat those two different audiences, and how do they influence product development, and how you think about what should be released next?
So there is so much that goes into that. That could be its own episode in a whole series. So I'm having a hard time figuring out where to jump in. But from the standpoint of our true target that we're speaking to, it is the parent or the caretaker, for sure. What does that parent or caretaker need to alleviate the stress, to make their lives easier, to realize that parenting is the best hard job you'll ever have? Let's make it fun. It's not all serious. And so we're always looking for what is an opportunity to enhance the parenting journey. Of course, indirectly or directly, that's all about what does the child need. For instance, we're talking about like bibs. Bibs are one of our best-selling products. We absolutely need something that the mom doesn't have to clean as much, that's healthy for the environment. It's every touch point, that it's not in the way of the child as they're learning. So you'll see like the curvature of our bib leaves room for full shoulder and arm movement. It all focuses in. And then we do extreme safety testing. So what really plays into what does the child need? The child needs a product that is absolutely safe in terms of its chemical, material, physical composition. And the mom, of course, needs that too, but like, this is a serious thing in our industry. So safety, absolutely for the child, function and necessity for the parent. And then what really differentiates our brand is this idea of personality forward. So we're not gonna bring you these basic sad beige baby things. That's somebody else's job, you know? We're gonna try to make you laugh. You know, we're gonna put on a bib, ladies keep trying to pick me up for little kids. Like, they're fun. And we're gonna have that personality in there. So new product development is really, it's kind of a juxtaposition of thinking of everything, but one thing that truly has taken us to the next level is we brought in experts. So we work with experts in feeding and occupational therapy and physical therapy for pediatrics. So we'll come up with a great idea, but we don't know all the nuances of child development the way that they do. And so we'll bring them in to make sure that it really is right for when the different teeth are coming in, or it really is something that's approachable to a child to make them more apt to be a healthy eater. So it truly is the most fun thing we do, but the most difficult thing we do, because not only in our business is it the mom and the baby, but because we're a wholesale business, 90% of our sales are wholesale, whether it's to Nordstrom or whether it's to the boutique down the street. We have gatekeepers there too. Yeah. And so we have to make sure that we're selling to a showroom, to a sales rep, to a store owner, then to the parent, and then it has to be something the baby wants to use. So there's a lot of doors that we have to go through, which just means the product has to be that much more functional, that much more fun, and that much more trusted.
Yeah. No, I mean, I already knew that so many of the ideas and the beliefs and the way you all see business here align with how we think about it. And I think this is another example of that, is this idea. My favorite Jeff Bezos saying is that in the long run, customer value always aligns with shareholder value. And if that's true, then really all you need to focus on is what's in the best interest of the customer. Like, what is going to create value, because you know that as long as you deliver on that piece in the long run, right, it might be, I'm sure it might be on the short term more costly to bring in the expert, to do all the testing, right? And so when you are driven by profit and revenue and all those margins, it's so difficult to make these kinds of decisions on the short term, because they eat up your margin. But the only way you can make those kinds of decisions is because when you understand that over the long run, customer value always align with shareholder value. And as long as we have our customers in mind, we will always win.
We say that all the time around here. We'll come up with a decision. Is that customer centric? Is that customer facing? Like, is that the right thing for our customer? And oftentimes, unfortunately, the right thing for the customer isn't the right thing for the bottom line. But we're always going to choose the customer.
But it's true on the short term, right? Like the right is not on the short term. Sometimes, yes, it's not the right thing, but I feel like it always, and you guys are the testament of that. That it always, maybe I shouldn't say always, but it usually it usually works out on the long term.
It does. It does. And our mentality around here is learn and turn. So if we make this mistake once and we have to take a hit on profit because we brought something in that wasn't the best product, we're going to learn and turn, and we're going to do it better next time.
So we are, with this show and with our company, on a quest to help bring more Bella Tunnos in the world, right? I think intellectually you will be hard pressed to find somebody who disagrees with anything we talked about. But in practice, we know it is, we don't see it. Why do you think there is such a discrepancy between these ideas of care and compassion and love and customer centricity and putting the customer first and treating employees, right? Like intellectually, again, you will not find a leader who doesn't agree with those ideas. But why are they so hard to put in practice?
I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask that to, because I can't imagine doing it any other way.
That's fair.
Truly, I really can't. Now, one thing I will say, just kind of editorially, is I think there's a shift, and I love it. So about 4 years ago, we used to send out all these surveys, and of course, behind a screen and the confidentiality of that, people would say, of course I'll pay a little more for a product that gives back. Of course I'll pay a little bit more for something that's organic or eco-friendly. But they didn't. That's shifting. It really is shifting, and we're seeing it so often in our pitches. We just got into a really big retailer that we've been wanting to work with for a long time, and the reason that we were invited to the table was because we're mission-driven, B-Corp certified, and woman-owned. That's why. And they said, we've been looking for that, and it's hard to find that trifecta. And that's one of the first times that that's happened, and it's happening over and over and over again. We worked with another major retailer, and the reason that they wanted us was because their give back impact brands, whatever you call it, were the lead horses in this program that they were doing, and our sales were off the charts. It's starting to matter, not only to the consumer, but to the corporate partnerships. So I can't answer your question why people don't do it. I mean, I think it comes down to cost. I mean, at the end of the day, it costs more to do the right thing. It costs more to be a small company and give someone 6 weeks paid paternity leave. And that might not seem like a lot, or maternity leave. We have both. But that's a lot for a small company. You know, and we pay all the premiums on health, dental, eye. That costs a lot. But I have people that have been here 12 years, 10 years. Like, it pays off so much when you treat people right. So I don't know why people aren't choosing to do it. I can't imagine doing it any other way, but I do know it's starting to matter so much more, and I love that shift.
Yeah, I love it too. I genuinely believe that B-Corp is the future. You know, I think we will see more and more and more businesses. When you have companies like Patagonia leading the charge, and then companies like yours, I think for me, when I talk about empathy in business, I always try to make it a point that I don't think about it in this necessarily philanthropic, social impact way. I think it's practical. I think, well, you are a company that is making money, that has profit, that has high retention, that has all these success markers in business. And I think when we're gonna have more companies like yours, like the Ben and Jerry's, the Patagonia, that are not just doing good, but that are good, strong, functioning businesses, then well, what's your case then? What's your case against it? When somebody is saying treat people well, do what's the best interest of employees, join important social conversations, all those things that you agree maybe in your personal life, you agree maybe intellectually, but you feel that there is not a strong enough business case for it. I think those days are slowly behind us because now, well, the Bella Tunnos in this world are showing us that it is a very, very strong and compelling business case for doing it. And I think we just need more of that. And I'm so happy to hear that from your experience that there is a little bit more of consumers putting their money where their mouth is, right? Because again, it's one of those things where like, oh, I want to support local, I want to do organic, but then when the rubber meets the road, it doesn't always happen. So I'm really glad to hear you say that there is a shift happening, and I think more examples, consumers really becoming and bringing that level of consciousness in the way they shop. Those are the forces, and hopefully some legal governmental pressures as well, hopefully will continue to turn business for what it's supposed to be, a tool to enhance the human experience.
I could not agree more, and I think we are seeing it. The amount of companies that reach out to me and want advice on becoming a B Corp, and there's a trend, and it's a shift that it's so powerful, and it's moving. It's gaining momentum. Yeah. I'll say that. I mean, it's not where we want it to be, but the shift I've seen in the past couple of years has been fantastic.
You mentioned earlier in our conversation that when a young entrepreneur comes to you and asks, when should I start giving? You say, well, start with your purpose now. Mm-hmm. What are some of those building blocks that you usually bring forth when you advise wannabe or young entrepreneur about like how to create a Bella Tunno?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is what keeps you up at night, or what have you had a personal experience with. I think those are the things, and sometimes those are the same things, but where do you really want to make a mark in this world? And then, can you align it with what you're doing? Because it's a perfect example here is my brother died of an overdose, drug and alcohol addiction. I started making baby products because I was pregnant, but used it as a vehicle to fund work to help addicts. That does not align, right? Like you're bringing a baby into the world, and your baby is definitely, Landry will cure cancer. She will be the first female president. I know she will. I know she will. You're not thinking about drug addicts. You're not thinking about all the pain and destitute and sadness and all that stuff that goes with that. And so we were going forward doing such good work. We'd sent so many people through rehab. We added rooms to the rescue mission. We gave scholarships to unwed teen moms. But none of that. That was my passion, and it kept me up at night, and it was where I wanted to make my mark in the world, but it was so far from aligning. Yeah, just complete misalignment. And so I started digging into it because I knew it was misaligned. The minute I was talking to someone, I'm like, so we make these great baby products, and you're gonna love them, and they'll be great in your store, and for everyone you buy, we give a % to addicts to help them go through rehab. And they went from this to this. And I was like, it doesn't make any sense. And so I came across some studies in 2014 that said 1 in 6 children went to bed hungry in this country. And that seemed out of whack. So I dug deeper. I'm like, that cannot be the statistic. And when I dug deeper, not only was that true, but there was a link between food insecurity in infancy and adolescence and addictive behaviors in adulthood. A lot of that is pure socioeconomics. But to me, all of a sudden, that was that moment where I'm like, we're creating feeding products for children. There's a link back to that. My passion, addiction, it's not like a direct, it's not a direct, okay, if you did not have food growing up, you will be an addict, but there is enough of a bridge there,
and
right?
I think, sorry to interrupt, but I think you even touch on something that you mentioned earlier. It's like, I don't want to fix this symptom.
Yes.
I want to,
yes.
Right? Like, can we find the root cause and plug that hole?
Right. And can it align with our target audience and our product? And I will tell you that was rocket fuel. Because the minute that on our products we said, buy one product, feed one child, everyone wanted to be part of that. The minute that, before that we said, buy our product and we'll help a drug addict. And we didn't say it that way. We're a little better at marketing, but essentially we weren't saying anything that was quantifiable. And so all of a sudden it was like, everyone wanted to join our mission. They wanted to be a part of that. Who doesn't want to feed hungry children? And so that was the kind of thing, and I'm getting back to your question here, but it's like, if you can find something that matters so much to you that you're not giving up on that, and you want to be part of that solution, but you can find a way that story weaves into what you're doing, whether it's service-based or whether it's product-based, that's even more powerful.
We always try to make a case for why purpose matters so much, right? Like you have all these conversations in branding and marketing about how performance-driven, purpose-driven ads seem to perform better, blah, 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 blah. But this is why purpose matters, and you alluded to that earlier, that if it wasn't for the challenges and the problem in the world that we're trying to solve, when the tough stuff gets going, this piece of silicon is not gonna drive you. It's not gonna keep you going, right? And the kind of people you bring into the company that align with that, and now you just touch on the customers. I think when we think about customers, we often have this idea that they only have functional needs, right? Like, I need a bed to feed my family, but they have aspirational needs. Yeah. They want to be part of something bigger. They want to contribute their money, their gift, their talent to making this world a better place. And when you give them the opportunity to do that, that's how you create these kinds of products, and you create these kind of brands that, it seems like, yours is not really a commodity, but I was thinking about a company like Nike that sells shoes, but because they were able to tap into those higher, more aspirational needs that we have, all of a sudden they are part of our lives in ways that seems irrational, right? And the kind of support I'm sure that you get from your customers, and it's because of that.
It's true. You're going to buy a bib. You're going to buy a teether for your child. If you can also feed a child while you do that, and you have all these choices of fun sayings that make you laugh, make you happy, bring joy to your life, why wouldn't you pick ours?
So how do you come up with all the fun sayings?
Everyone
is there a hotline where we can chip in?
I would love that. I would love that. Everyone thinks we sit around with mimosas or something, but we really don't. It's not the kind of thing that we're like, oh, we need new sayings, and one day we just do it. We just pay really close attention to what's going on, and I keep a running list on my phone. It is definitely teamwork because we all have different ideas on what we think is funny. I tend to like to push things a little further than some other people on the team do, and that creates a really nice balance in terms of the assortment. But there is not a recipe for it, really. You just take notice of the world. Right now, Taylor Swift is so hot, so we put, hi, it's me, I'm the baby, it's me. And, it's just a play off of the words on her songs. We've done that with Justin Bieber songs. We have a sippy cup that says, oops, I dropped it again. And it's Britney Spears. It's just, you just kind of do a play off of things. It's just being clever and curious about the world, really. But it is definitely teamwork. And then we get a ton of customer service write-ins. Can't say we use a lot of them. And we get people that are like, you still haven't used mine. We're like, it's not funny. But there's, we welcome the crowdsourcing, but there's also a level of sensitivity that goes into it too. We want to make sure that it's funny, but not at anyone's expense. So there's a balance there.
Well, Michelle, as expected, this has been a wonderful, incredibly inspiring, reviving, re-energizing conversation. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. And on behalf of babies all over the world, we thank you for your contribution to the world.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me and giving me a platform to share.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah.